I'm glad we're on this sort of general topic because I'm very fascinated and interested with, like, I want Christians to be united from all around the world, no matter what specific,
Denominations.
version of Christian you are. There has to be this sort of unity. I mean, even just in the past, say the coronavirus, right? That thing you just told me about that I didn't hear about beforehand, right? It was happening before this, but coronavirus just accelerated everything. Okay, I just said there's this sort of breakdown in unity. You can't really act out your faith as easy in the church body, at least in these experiences we've had, right? And there's a lack of emphasis on the community and communion, like fellowship with each other, and like real
Faith and
having
fellowship.
chats like this. It wouldn't happen. Not really. It
Especially
wouldn't
in
really
COVID
happen.
as well, where people are just saying, right, go straight home.
But anyway, so that was before COVID, but then COVID happens, right? And then
worse.
there was such a lack of this human interaction community. It was like there was no fight, but
yeah, it's to the
just-
point where people feared human
it was
interaction.
just like, all right,
It was just
the government says this, so we'll just follow because it's our Christian duty to do that. And I understand what they're saying, but it's like there's such a they don't see the overarching pattern and what they're protecting, and if they saw that, they would realize if they saw the fullness of that, or at least more. Like, I talk about symbolism all the time, right? It fascinates me. Okay,
my head.
it's like it's the language of meaning. Okay, it's like if you understand these patterns, you can start living in those patterns. Most people don't understand the world from a meaning perspective. They see it as like alright, what am I doing today, next week? That's about it, kind of thing. How does it fit together on like such a low down level? It's not like no one usually thinks of what is the story of my life. How does this partake in that? No one thinks that, and they definitely don't think what's the story of my community or my country or the world. They don't think that, right? But if you do think in those terms, it's such a burden on your soul to see these things happen. Anyway, so there's such a lack of emphasis put on all this stuff. So it was just poof, it's gone, right? And do you know what people realised? Hold on a minute. This is no different. We're meeting at church now. Well, this is back when we were meeting at church now, but back when it was all
We couldn't.
nothing. It was just online. It's like, oh, I feel no different.
Yeah.
I just showed up to church every week and made idle chat and
then went home
and
had
exchanged
lunch.
pleasantries, and the only thing that's different is the
became a
commute.
social club.
There's no commute anymore. That's the only difference,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
And that's the communion with the church should not be as easily
taken away.
taken away like that without.
Not without even a discussion, let alone a fight.
Well, no, I know. I mean, like, it shouldn't. I'm not saying like the process, but I'm saying if that's just taken away, you shouldn't be able to be like, oh, I didn't realize.
Yeah.
It should have been like such a massive part.
Should have been an impact.
Continue what you're saying.
Yeah, well, I think that was one thing for me, like, in Village. I think if I hadn't been going there, there's such, like, they're so every year they do this sermon series called Family Traits, just to remind the church of, like, the sort of mission or vision statement of Village. And they do a sermon series on gospel, community and mission. And what I love about Village is, like, I really do feel like I'm part of a community. Like, I feel like I am doing life, like, side by side with the people that I'm in church with. That was, like, one thing whenever I left home, sorry, in 2019, I did Livewire, New Horizon Livewire, after my first year of uni, and I was a leader, and the theme was church, and I learned so much that week about, like, what it means to be part of your local church. And I remember chatting to this man, Pete Wright, legend, and he was a Presbyterian minister, I believe, or a youth worker, actually. He was a youth worker. But anyway, he was in the Presbyterian church, and I was in the Presbyterian church, but, like, in making my way, like, transitioning out of it. and he had said like it's okay to like not go to a Presbyterian church when you move to Belfast. Like you need to go somewhere where that's local and that is preaching the gospel and is mission focused. Like those are like the main things. So when I found Village, I was like, whoa, this feels like a family. Like I straight off the bat was like, I'm so welcome, etc. So whenever COVID happened, pandemic happened, I did feel like that was completely like taken away, like that whole community aspect. And like we still tried to meet. We had like a weekly meeting on a Wednesday night, like a small group meeting, and we still did that on Zoom and stuff, but it felt so different because now like I came straight from my church friend's house this afternoon. Like we had a prayer breakfast this morning, and then I went to their house for lunch, and like I'm going back to their house this evening to play Catan.
Woo!
I know, I'm so excited. I only played Catan once, but I won, so I'm addicted.
There's a million board games.
Yeah.
I'm addicted to them.
I love that. So like I really do feel like I'm part of a community, but I know what you mean. Like if you don't have that in your church, like then there's a problem.
Yeah.
And that needs to be addressed because we're first and foremost we're called to live in community with each other, and
Yeah.
that's what the church should look like.
My issue is just what you were saying, Josh, is that we have the freedom to talk and debate as Christians, and I love that. As we know, I love arguing, and I love debate, and I love conversation. I love demonstrating my ideas, and I love listening to other people's understandings and ideas. But it's when that is so easily pushed aside in terms of don't do that anymore, stay at home with your families for months, and it's so easily handed over, this fellowship. I suffered so greatly. Like I wasn't in whenever COVID happened. I didn't go to church for like 6 months until I went to Oxford.
Oh wow.
And I just hadn't this, because I could watch it on TV. It just wasn't the same to me. And I met up with a guy who invited me to youth praise, and I was in tears because I hadn't been so long, and it was just praise. It was just songs. There was no talk. It was just prayer and praise, and we were just praising. There's all a bunch of people my age, and I was broken. I was just like, this is what I've been missing. This is the one part of me that I couldn't worship. I can't worship without people. I can't worship without fellow Christians. Even though I know Christ is with me now in all ways, I still need to worship Him, and I can't do that in front of a TV screen. There's this thing now with COVID passes are now a thing.
Yeah.
That are going to be implemented.
Raging.
Where you need to show a pass going anywhere into hospitality, and if you don't have one, you're not allowed to be sat down and served.
Is that passed?
I don't know, it's being talked about, but what if that happens and then it spreads to churches? You need a passport to get into churches.
This is revealing the very dark side of me. Like, you know, if you're familiar with the Jungian shadow, okay, this is revealing my dark side, right?
Ooh.
There's part of me that wants that because I know it's going to make the world burn, and I kind of want to see the story play out. But then there's others.
Psychopath.
No, then there's the other side of me where it's like I want to do everything in my power to make sure that doesn't happen.
Yeah.
Because I can see what could happen if that happens.
It's because
but other people don't see, and I want them to see. That's what my dark side is. Enough of. I just want them to see.
Well, you know what it is.
Does that make sense?
All Christians, and I find this a lot. All Christians yearn for justice. But also all Christians yearn for justice and judgment, but also fellowship and freedom.
Yeah.
You know, that's the two things in terms of the good and the dark, the light side of Christians and the less bright but still good side of the faith is there's going to be justice and punishment for all, Christians included, in terms of giving an account, and you know, the reward being, does the reward fit the bill and stuff like that. But then we also have this understanding as Christians that we want to be superheroes and save the world and save people and invite them into, and get to one day see them in heaven. You know, like I would agree with you in terms of, yes, there needs to be a hard rocking of the church. There needs to be a hard, you know, understanding that, look, this is taken away so easily. What are you going to do to fight for it? But then we also have the other side where it's like, let's try and prevent this from happening. Let's try and keep what we have now, because we can't afford to see that any worse.
The Christian story is death and rebirth. I do believe the church has to die for the next revival to happen. I believe that. and I don't think we can avoid it.
Yeah, like the church I grew up in, like, I just feel like it's been dying for a long time, and like there's not much happening that's like reviving it. So I feel like it's like at that stage where it needs, when everyone's like it gets worse before it gets better, like it needs to hit rock bottom for something to like click and things to change. So, which is really hard to watch and see. And like my family still go to that church, and like my dad's an elder there, and my mum and dad have like a real passion to see the church revived. But like it's hard when there's two people in a congregation of like a few hundred.
Yeah.
Obviously they're not the only two, but like
I like to remember that the Lord is present, even in the caves and the caverns of the world, as well as the heavens.
Yeah.
And when you apply that to churches, when you apply that to the people, the individual people in the churches, like people who have secret sins that nobody knows about, that the Lord knows about. That's why it says all vengeance is the Lord's. All justice is the Lord's, because we're all sinners, so we can't therefore judge. We need to have somebody who isn't part of it, who is the judge. And I find rest and relief in that. No matter how dark things get, I know that the Lord of Light is still in control.